Hey, everybody. I'm Rita Batchley, and this is Coffee with the Nurse's Nurse, where you'll get tips and tricks on how to infuse the self-care back into healthcare. And tonight, we're going to have a topic for all you newbies or just reviewing maybe what you wish you knew about being a nurse and what it takes to have nursing be your jam. Because first of all, I want to encourage and support nurses. I don't want to be negative and turn nurses away from the healthcare profession, because it's a great profession. And I just want to thank everyone for being understanding about the time change. We've switched it up here. We have our new time, 7 p.m. And that seems to be a better time. So sit down and relax and get nurtured with the Nurse's Nurse, where I take my 30 years as a bedside nurse and I talk to you and we get together and talk about everything nursing. Today I wanted to remind people about 5 reasons nursing may not be the job for you. And this is some of the stuff I wish I would have known before I became a nurse, because, it takes a lot of time and money and mental sanity to become a nurse. I mean, you got to study, it costs a lot to go to college. And now the entry level for RNs is 4 years. When I got into nursing, it was a 2-year program, and I could go to a community college, and that offset a lot of the cost. But today, you got to dive right in and become that 4-year nurse, and it takes a lot. So why would you want to waste all that time and money if it's not suited for you? Have you ever heard of Nurse Ratched? She is a really mean-spirited nurse from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I was doing a little Googling on it because, I wanted to see maybe some of the lines that she used in that book. But I found out that Netflix actually has a series now, Nurse Ratched. She is a true, embittered, robotic villain. And I looked at that trailer and I thought, man, I don't think I could watch that, because she was really scary. And nobody wants to become Nurse Ratched. So sit down and relax and have a little tea or something. I know me, I'm drinking my decaf herbal tea now, because it's late and I got to rest later. And here we go. But when it comes down to becoming a nurse, maybe, like everyone in your family became a nurse and you're following in those footsteps, or it's just the only acceptable job for a woman. There could be a lot of reasons, but here's 5 that I want to share with you to help you make that choice. Because there's nothing worse than an unhappy, villainous, robotic nurse like Nurse Ratched. And the number 5 reason not to become a nurse is to get rich. Because you know what? You're not going to, it's just not going to happen. If you want to get rich, there's a lot of other ways. Nurses start out with incomes of like 45 to 70,000 a year. But if you want to be a nurse anesthetist, you could bring in about 160 per year, but that takes a lot more schooling. And here's the catch. If you want to make all that kind of bank as a nurse, you're going to be working a lot of overtime. And nurses make 80, 100,000 a year, but they're working a lot of call. They're working weekends, holidays for that time and a half. And I got to say, there's a lot easier ways. I mean, if you're going to do that, I'd say, yeah, if you love nursing and you're suited to it, take that money and invest it in real estate, because maybe you'll get rich with that. But I don't think you're going to get rich from being a nurse. So if you're banking on being rich, yeah, that's not going to happen. But being a healer, that would be a better reason to want to become a nurse and wanting to make a difference in people's lives. The number 4 reason why you probably shouldn't be a nurse is that you don't like to get dirty. And this next slide is kind of gross, because we don't use our bare hands with that kind of mess, but we do use gloves, and you are going to be up to your elbows in this kind of stuff from time to time. And you got to be willing to jump in and work. You can't let all your nurses' assistants, and if people soil themselves or they just even need a glass of water, you need to get in there, roll up your sleeves, and do this type of work that you might feel is, kind of below your job description. And that's just not how nursing works, because everybody works together. You're part of a team, and you have to sometimes do things that's below your scope of practice. And that's because, when, especially in the hospital, you're just needing all hands on deck and taking care of whatever a patient needs when they need it. And that's part of hospitality, which is part of being a nurse, is that you're making people comfortable, and you can't tell them to wait a minute. I got to call for help to get you this or clean you up. Sometimes you just got to roll up those sleeves and get right in there, because nursing can be a dirty job. And I don't know any nursing school that doesn't get their nurses up to their eyebrows in mess, just to break you into that humbling experience that life is messy. And when you're a nurse, you're part of that. And number 3 for figuring out if nursing is your jam, if let's face it, if you need a set schedule, you can't work weekends, holidays, or night shift. You know what? Nursing's not going to be for you, because you even if you want to work 9 to 5 in an office and you do get that kind of a job, to get the experience of being a nurse, you're going to need that flexibility, stamina, and perseverance. So working at first in a hospital could mean working night shift. And that just to get in, your first job, that's usually what's available, is night shift. And if you're not willing to do that, you're going to have a really rough time. And that's a fact. And I see we got some people joining in, and I want to get to some comments. If you guys have any comments or questions, put them in the chat, and I'll circle around to you. But we're going to get through these 5 things. And number 2 is you like to work alone. Nursing is a people person job. You have to be a people person, or you are not going to like nursing. I mean, some nurses are research or teacher. Well, even teachers, you got to deal with the students. You can't just be walled off with your patient one-on-one. I mean, I was a labor and delivery nurse, and I got to be with a lot of patients and families one-on-one. But even so, you still have to be able to talk to doctors. You have to know how to communicate, and you have to be part of a team. And you have to really have a lot of emotional maturity, because when it comes to being a people person, you really have to be able to show up with a smile on your face, because the bottom line is people could get upset or disappointed in you, and you can't, or the situation, not really the nurse's fault if things are going bad for someone, but guess who's there? And guess who the patient takes out their faults on or their bad day on? You. So you got to be able to deflect that or just move on, put a smile on your face. You can't roll your eyes. You can't be grumpy or discouraging, because you got to put a smile on your face and help people to have a better day. And that's part of your job, to make this a better situation. And the number one reason that nursing might not be your jam is going to surprise you. I want you to lean into this a little bit, because a lot of people need to feel like, I just want to do my job and go home. Like, have you ever felt that? You just want to do your job and go home. But I got to say that nursing is a calling. And we represent care and empathy, this higher law, the spiritual law. We're called to, help people, and we're also called to represent our communities. Like, people want nurses, like schools are always looking for volunteers, and you're representing, like I represented as a nurse, and that got me, like on the PTA, and in this particular slide, it also means getting involved politically, professional advocacy. Like right now, safe staffing ratios are off the hook. We need to improve patient protocols all the time, and we need to have enforceable protections for nurses and patients. Not only that, you're never done when it comes to nursing, because you have to have CEUs. You have to continually improve yourself, going back and taking continuing education units to maintain your license. And also, a big thing is securing other ways for nurses for recruitment and retention. And you have to help the profession, and that means advocating. Like right now, there's that federal law that they're trying to pass for all the states. Right now, California has the safe staffing ratios, but not every state has that. And there's legislature in process right now. So getting out and educating people on what nurses do, because let's face it, I don't want Nurse Ratchet to be the representation of what nurses are today. Like bitter, freaking villainous is what she is. I mean, she pretty much gave Jack Nicholson a lobotomy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or else she helped to document that he needed one. And that was so sad, because, he didn't deserve that. I mean, and she was just a bitter nurse. Nobody wants that. So you got to make sure that you really want to be a nurse, and not just become a nurse for these reasons that aren't going to be good career choices for you. If you have any doubts, you know what? Speak to me. Call a trusted friend. If you got anything from this, you can go to my Rita Batchley YouTube channel and subscribe. You could follow me on Facebook. You could go to my nursesnurse.com, thenursesnurse.com, and send me a little note. And we could have a conversation. Let me know what you think is your buy-in for being a nurse, because there's a lot of skin in this game. And when you need a nurse, you're going to want a good nurse. And we need to promote and encourage people who are fitted for this position, and also really be supportive. Thanks for coming in on, this day where at this time, because it's different, 7 o'clock. I'm going to be back next week. But I'm going to go to comments and look in there, see who's on. I see a couple people out there, and I'm not sure if, if you could post. Sometimes my live stream doesn't allow that, but I'm just going to hang out here for a little minute or two and see who. I see some thumbs up, and I know that for me, I was terrified. Well, I passed out from the sight of blood. I don't know how many people know that about me, but when I went to nursing school, I was so upset because I didn't think I could do it. Like I couldn't do the OR rotation. I think something about the mask and the claustrophobia and the sight of blood just like spun me out. And I thought for sure, I just can't do this. I'm not suited for this. But I talked to my instructor and she was like, Rita, you're going to be a great nurse. You got these other things going on for you. OR rotation is not for everybody. That kind of stuff is not for everybody. There's all kinds of nursing, and just go for it. And I stuck it out, and I'm glad she encouraged me in that way. And I'm here for you guys out there. If you need some encouragement and support, come to thenursesnurse.com and check it out. That's it for my live stream today, and I'll be back next week for more talk with the Nurse's Nurse, where we infuse self-care back into healthcare because you can't give away something you don't have.